There is a single rock floating in the darkness between Mars and Jupiter that, if you could somehow drag it back to Earth and sell it, would be worth more than everything. Not more than your country. Not more than all the gold in every vault on the planet. More than the entire global economy. Every dollar, every business, every bank account on Earth combined. Multiplied by 100,000. One rock. And here's the truly insane part. That rock isn't even the most valuable object out there. Not by a long shot. Tonight we're going on a journey from merely priceless to numbers so large they stop meaning anything at all. Counting up the most expensive objects in the entire universe. And right at the end, I'm going to show you the one object that breaks the whole list. Something so valuable that no amount of money could ever buy it. And it's been hiding in plain sight this whole time. Stick around for that. Let's go. But before we can crown the most expensive thing in space, we have to answer a strange question. How do you even put a price tag on a chunk of the cosmos? Nobody's selling asteroids on the open market. The answer is that scientists estimate what an object is made of, how much iron, nickel, gold, platinum, and other precious metals it contains. And then they multiply those quantities by what those materials sell for here on Earth. It's a thought experiment, a fantasy spreadsheet. But once you start running those numbers on real objects in space, the results get completely unhinged. So let's climb the ladder, starting with the smaller fortunes and working our way up to the ones that break the human brain. Let's begin our journey relatively close to home, with a near-Earth asteroid that goes by the unglamorous name 1986 DA. This one is special because, unlike most asteroids that are just rock and ice, 1986 DA is a metal world. Radar studies suggest its surface is around 85% iron and nickel, a giant ball of metal tumbling through space just a few kilometers wide. But it's not the iron that gets treasure hunters excited. Buried in that metal, scientists estimate, could be staggering quantities of precious metals, possibly something like 100,000 tons of platinum and 10,000 tons of gold. Let that sink in. We're talking about more platinum in a single space rock than has ever been mined in all of human history. When you tally it all up at market prices, the value of 1986 DA runs into the trillions of dollars. A single asteroid worth more than the wealth of entire nations, and on the cosmic scale, this one is just a warm-up, a pebble. And 1986 DA has a smaller cousin worth mentioning, an asteroid called 3554 Amun, only about 2 kilometers wide, one of the tiniest metal asteroids we know. Yet even this little one is estimated to hold something like $20 trillion in iron, nickel, cobalt, and precious metals. 2 kilometers of rock worth more than the yearly economy of nearly any country on the planet. And there's a reason metal asteroids like these obsess the people who dream of mining space. The platinum group metals locked inside them, platinum, iridium, osmium, and their rare cousins, are some of the most useful substances we have, vital for electronics, medicine, and clean energy, and desperately scarce here on Earth. A single well-chosen asteroid could, in theory, supply humanity with more of these metals than we've dug out of the ground in all of history. Because once you step into the main asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, the numbers don't just grow, they explode past anything that makes sense. And the most famous resident of that belt, the one that made headlines around the world, is an asteroid called 16 Psyche. Psyche is a giant. It's roughly 220 kilometers across, about the distance between 2 major cities, and it's shaped a bit like a lumpy potato. But its size isn't what makes it legendary. It's what Psyche is believed to be made of. Most asteroids are rocky rubble. Psyche appears to be almost entirely metal. Iron, nickel, and quite possibly veins of gold and platinum running all the way through it. Scientists think Psyche might actually be the exposed core of a planet that never finished forming, a baby world that got smashed apart in the chaos of the early solar system, leaving only its dense metal heart behind. In other words, Psyche may be a naked planetary core, just sitting there exposed in the middle of the asteroid belt. So, what's it worth? When researchers first ran the numbers, the figure that came out was so absurd it became a global sensation. $10 quintillion. Let me try to write that out for you. A 10 followed by 18 zeros. To give you a sense of that scale, the entire economy of planet Earth, everything humanity produces in a year, is around $100 trillion. Psyche's estimated value was roughly 100,000 times the whole world's economy. If you could somehow mine Psyche and bring it home, you could theoretically give every single person on Earth well over $1 billion and still have a fortune left over. It was hailed as the most valuable object humans had ever identified. A literal golden world hanging in space. And NASA was so intrigued, they launched an actual spacecraft, also named Psyche, to go study it up close. But here's the twist that the headlines often skip over, and it's a good lesson in how fragile these dazzling numbers really are. More recent research suggested that Psyche might not be as densely packed with metal as everyone first hoped. Newer models hinted that it could be more porous, more rubble pile than solid gold bar, like discovering that a bar you thought was solid gold might be cheaper metal with a shiny coating. If that's true, that jaw-dropping 10 quintillion price tag may have to be marked down dramatically, which tells you something important about this entire list. These eye-watering valuations are educated guesses, balanced on assumptions, and they can collapse the moment we look closer. We won't truly know what Psyche is worth until the spacecraft arrives and sees it with its own eyes. So hold that thought, because the number one object on this list rests on exactly the same shaky foundation. And here's a beautiful irony buried in the Psyche mission. The scientists running it mostly don't care about the money at all. To them, Psyche's real value isn't the gold, it's the knowledge. You see, we can never actually visit the core of our own planet. Earth's metal heart sits beneath 3,000 kilometers of solid rock, hotter than the surface of the sun, utterly unreachable. We only know it exists by studying how earthquakes ripple through the planet. But if Psyche really is the bare, exposed core of a dead world, then visiting it is the closest we may ever come to seeing what hides at the center of the Earth and every other rocky planet. The spacecraft, propelled by futuristic electric thrusters that hurl charged atoms into space, is creeping across roughly 4 billion kilometers to get there. And when it arrives, it'll spend over 2 years circling, mapping, and weighing this metal world. So while the headlines screamed about quintillions of dollars, the people who actually went there are chasing something they'd argue is worth far more. The answer to what our own planet is made of, deep down where no human will ever set foot. Because Psyche, believe it or not, isn't even the richest rock in the asteroid belt. That title goes to an even bigger giant, an asteroid named Davida. Davida is one of the largest asteroids in the entire belt, well over 300 kilometers across, a small world in its own right. And when scientists tallied up the estimated resources locked inside it, they arrived at a number that dwarfs even Psyche, somewhere around $27 quintillion. 27 followed by 18 zeros. It is, by these calculations, the single most valuable asteroid we know of, a rock so rich that the phrase richest thing in existence starts to feel like an understatement. If Davida's wealth were somehow unlocked and spread across humanity, the very concept of money would probably collapse. There would simply be too much of everything. Scarcity, the thing that gives gold and platinum their value in the first place, would vanish overnight. And that paradox, that hauling all this treasure home might actually destroy its value, is going to come back to haunt us at the end. But first, let's leave the asteroids behind, because we've only been talking about rocks. What happens when we scale up to entire planets? Out there, around other stars, the universe hides worlds that make even DeVita look like spare change. The most famous is an exoplanet called 55 Cancri E, orbiting a star about 40 light-years away. This world earned an incredible nickname, the Diamond Planet. For a while, scientists hypothesized that this scorching hot super-Earth might be extraordinarily rich in carbon. And under the crushing pressures inside such a planet, carbon can crystallize into diamond. The estimates that followed were dizzying. Some calculations suggested that if even a fraction of the planet were diamond, it could be worth something on the order of $27 nonillion. That's a number with 30 zeros. There is no meaningful way for a human mind to picture that. It's not a fortune anymore. It's a punchline. An entire planet, potentially studded through and through with diamond, glittering away 40 light-years from anyone who could ever spend it. Now, to be fair, later research cast doubt on just how diamond-rich 55 Cancri E really is. Like Psyche, the dream got more complicated when scientists looked harder. But the very idea revealed something wild about the cosmos. Out there, somewhere, there are almost certainly planets made of materials we consider unimaginably precious. Worlds of diamond, worlds of metal, treasure on a scale the human imagination simply cannot hold. And here's the thing that should be nagging at you by now, and it's the question that flips this entire video on its head. What good is any of it? Every single object we've talked about, the metal asteroids, the diamond planet, the quintillions and nonillions, shares one fatal flaw. You can't actually have any of it. Psyche is hundreds of millions of kilometers away, and we have no real way to mine it or bring it home. DeVita is even further. The diamond planet is 40 light-years away, a distance so vast that with our current technology, simply getting there would take longer than humans have existed. And even if you could haul a quintillion dollars of platinum back to Earth, the moment you did, platinum would become as common as gravel, and its price would crash to nothing. The value of these objects exists only on paper, only in a fantasy where the laws of physics and economics both politely look away. They are, in the most literal sense, priceless, because their price is imaginary. So let's flip the question entirely. Forget what things would be worth if we could reach them. What's the most expensive object in space that humans have actually really spent money on? Because that number is real. Every dollar of it was genuinely paid.
And the answer is floating right above your head as you watch this. It's the International Space Station, built piece by piece over decades by a partnership of nations, hauled into orbit on rocket after rocket after rocket. The space station carries a price tag of more than $150 billion. That makes it, officially, the most expensive single object humanity has ever built. Anywhere, on Earth or off it. Not a fantasy valuation, not a thought experiment. $150 billion of real money, orbiting the planet at 28,000 kilometers an hour right now as you breathe. There's another kind of most expensive worth pausing on, though. And it's maybe the strangest entry of all. What's the priciest piece of space humans have actually brought home, gram for gram? Not a valuation, not a fantasy. Physical material we've held in our hands. The answer comes from the tiny asteroid samples that spacecraft have flown across the solar system to collect and return. A Japanese mission scooped up a few precious grams from an asteroid called Ryugu and parachuted them back to Earth. When you divide the cost of that entire mission by the minuscule amount of dust it returned, you get a price of something like $10 million per gram. That makes a thimble of ordinary-looking asteroid grit one of the most expensive substances ever to touch human hands. Not because the dust itself is made of gold, but because reaching out into the void and bringing back even a pinch of it is so staggeringly hard. It's a glimpse of the real cost of space treasure. The price isn't in the rock, it's in the reaching. But even the space station isn't the end of our story. Because there's one more thing. a substance so expensive that it makes the space station's price tag look like pocket change, gram for gram. And unlike a far-off asteroid, this stuff actually exists here on Earth, in tiny, almost unimaginably small amounts. It's called antimatter. Antimatter is, in a sense, the mirror image of ordinary matter, a kind of evil twin of the stuff you and everything around you is made of. For every particle of normal matter, there's an antimatter version with the opposite charge. And when matter and antimatter touch, they don't just react, they annihilate each other completely, vanishing in a flash of pure energy, the most efficient release of energy known to physics. It sounds like science fiction, and it kind of is. Antimatter could one day power spaceships that reach Mars in a month instead of a year, or even carry us toward other stars. But there's a reason we don't have antimatter engines yet. Antimatter is almost impossible to make. We can only produce it in titanic machines like the particle accelerators at CERN, and even then, only a handful of atoms at a time, at enormous expense.
Add up the cost of producing it, and you arrive at the most expensive material in the known universe. The price of a single gram of antimatter is estimated at around $62 trillion. 1 gram. To put that in perspective, a single gram of this stuff would cost more than the annual economic output of most countries on Earth. With 1 gram, you could theoretically buy 150,000 of the world's most expensive private jets and still have money left over. It is, by weight, the most precious substance that has ever existed, and we can barely make enough of it to see. So there it is, the ladder of cosmic wealth, from trillion-dollar asteroids to a quintillion-dollar metal core to a planet of diamond to a gram of antimatter worth more than a nation. You'd think that would be the end, the most expensive things in the universe ranked and counted. But remember what I promised you at the start, the one object that breaks the entire list. And to find it, we have to throw out our spreadsheets completely because it can't be measured in metals or carbon or dollars at all. Think back to that paradox we kept circling. Every treasure on this list is worthless in practice. A quintillion-dollar asteroid you can't reach is worth exactly nothing. A diamond planet 40 light-years away buys you nothing. Even antimatter, for all its staggering price, exists in amounts too small to power anything. Their value evaporates the instant you ask, but can I actually use it? And there's a deeper trap hidden in these numbers, one that economists love to point out. Value comes from scarcity. Gold is precious precisely because there's so little of it. The moment you flood the world with a quintillion dollars of platinum, platinum stops being precious. It becomes as ordinary as sand. And that quintillion-dollar price tag dissolves into nothing.
So these asteroids are caught in a cruel, logical knot. They're only worth a fortune as long as we can't reach them. The very act of claiming the treasure would destroy the treasure. It's the cosmic equivalent of a vault that can only stay full if it's never opened. So what, then, is the single most valuable object in all of space? By the only measure that truly counts, which is whether it can actually keep you alive, feed you, let you breathe, let you exist at all. You're standing on it. The most valuable object in the known universe isn't a golden asteroid or a diamond world. It's the Earth. Think about it. We have scoured the cosmos and found rocks worth quintillions, but not one of them can do what this ordinary-looking blue planet does effortlessly. Hold liquid water, breathable air, a magnetic shield against deadly radiation, a stable climate, and the only known life anywhere in existence.
There is no price tag large enough, no number with enough zeros to capture the value of the one place in the universe where you can simply walk outside and not die. Every other treasure we've talked about is a number on a screen. This one is the irreplaceable, the genuinely priceless. And we've been standing on it the entire time, mostly forgetting it's the most precious thing we'll ever find. Which leaves one last unsettling thought to sit with. We dream of flying out to mine asteroids worth quintillions, of cracking open diamond planets, of getting rich beyond imagination among the stars. But what if the entire search has it backwards? What if the rarest, most valuable thing in the whole cosmos isn't something out there waiting to be found and sold, but something we already have and have barely begun to appreciate. The universe is full of unimaginable riches that we can never touch. And the one treasure we can touch, the one that's actually worth everything, is the one we're most carelessly spending. So here's the question I'll leave you with. If Earth is truly the most valuable object in the universe, what does that say about how we're treating it? And is there anything out there, anywhere in all that endless dark, that could ever possibly take its place?